Good evening, afternoon, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It is This Week in College Football, the new web series that we're starting for absolutely no other reason than I like money. I'm just kidding. I'm Red, and today we are going to discuss basically whatever the fuck has been going on in college football and just in college sports, I guess, at this point, considering what we've been hearing out of Dartmouth. But before we get into it, I'm going to bring my good buddy to the stage here. Illogical Canadian, how the hell are you doing?
Hey, I'm all right. Took some edibles before the show. We're just going off to a good start.
We're fucked. So, cynical. It's not the first time I've been bald, cynical. It's the first time I've been bald since I started doing this shit, though. But yeah. I mean, I went back and I watched the replays from the 1,000 subscriber celebration the other night, and I realized that when I was joking about how my hairline is in full retreat like Napoleon's army, it really is. And I had to come to a decision. Do I keep letting it go or do I embrace it? So, motherfucker, I embrace it. I know I'm getting bald. So, all the hair will be down here, none up here. And we're going to try to keep it like that unless I just get too damn lazy. But once again, guys, you know how this fucking shit works. If you got a question about what's been going on lately in college football, feel free to comment in the chat and I will answer it. But we're going to go ahead and get right into the latest with basically, oh boy.
What the f was that?
The NCAA is apparently dying, according to everybody. NCAA, what the fuck? That's the top story today, as the NCAA, according to some people, is facing extinction. I'm going to go ahead and get this shit pulled up here. But basically, oh boy, where the fuck do we begin? So, the latest and greatest, and I'm going to pause this because I don't want to get in trouble. The latest and greatest with the NCAA has been over the past, oh my God, cynical.
Damn. I will not let that slide.
Damn. I don't know. But if this is a nice look, I'll take the compliment. Thanks. I've never been hit on like that. Anyway, moving on. So, story. Man, what the fuck is going on with the NCAA? So, as we all, if you haven't been under a rock, we're aware the NCAA is currently facing 5 different lawsuits, not to mention a severe backlash after the latest allegations came out against Tennessee, and kind of tying hand in hand with all that, as we all also heard, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to ally. Basically, they are going to form a advisory committee and will share necessary steps they feel like need to be taken in the future to protect college football. Now, I don't know if this is, anything that they suggest is going to go. I can tell you what this is not, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this off the top of my head here. This is not the SEC and the Big Ten going to break away immediately. Yes, they formed an advisory board. Yes, they are trying to implement some new rules, try to make it more favorable for the bigger conferences, for football especially. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the first attempt to them to break away. I would say it's more of a warning shot than an actual legitimate attempt, because this is an advisory group to help the game and to help the NCAA as a whole. It is not an advisory group to kill the NCAA or to kill, FBS as we know it. In my opinion, FBS as we know it pretty much died at the end of the college football season this year. Illogical, what's your take?
Honestly, it's very, very weird. It's like you got 2 of the top conferences in the entire country coming together. The SEC's expanding by adding Texas and Oklahoma. Big Ten's expanding a shit ton, adding programs like USC, Oregon, Washington, so on and so forth. This is something, and no one can see my fucking mouth because of the headline, but essentially,
figuring this out.
We got these two powerful conferences coming together in light of the NCAA's bullshit, because that's what it always does. Because the NCAA is bullshit, but this could threaten the stability, or so we think, of the NCAA's hold on college football. We don't know how this will affect other sports. We don't know the exact specifics yet, but I think the more and more that we look into it, the more that we read about it, the more that comes out in the coming weeks and months, I feel like the more of an understanding that we're going to have overall. Because, again, there's only impact football for now. Could this spill over into stuff like basketball, baseball, college hockey in a way? Absolutely. Again.
All right.
But
so your stream's committing a little bit of bad internet.
About what exactly is going on. Yeah, well, it is what it is. Fucking.
Well, let me kind of chime in here. This is an interesting development just because of the fact that these two conferences are actually working together. If you guys remember years ago when it was the previous leadership leading the SEC, before Sankey, when it was in the SEC, when it was Delaney running it, these two conferences wanted absolutely nothing to fucking do with each other. They wanted to go their own way. They wanted to do their own thing and let bygones be bygones. But the problem is that was, going on 6-7 years ago. Things have fucking changed. And Senegal, I think he got a solid point here. He says, if anything, this is to keep the NCAA in check from themselves. It's a positive because the NCAA won't listen to the fans, let alone the government either. And then when Mitch said, when I saw the title, I almost spat out my sweet tea. What do you mean by that? NCAA in deep trouble? Or were you talking about Big Ten and SEC ally? Gonna need a little bit more specific. But anyway, I can only see this as nothing but good. Like when I first heard this story last week, my initial thought was, thank fucking God that somebody is finally with some power doing something. Yeah, the ally thing. Yeah, I agree. Like when I know everybody's first thought when they see this shit is, what the fuck are these two guys doing? Is this a takeover? My head was saying, holy fuck, this is great. Because this could mean that we could get actual changes for the first time in a long time in college football that is actually timely, that is actually good, that's going to help the sport grow, it's going to help make the sport less controversial. And ultimately, it's not going to take 10 fucking years to do one thing that they should have done years ago. If you believe some stories, the NCAA should have started, getting payers played all the way back in the 90s when TV contracts started to go, actually before the 90s, it was like the 70s or the 80s, conferences were able to start controlling TV contracts for their schools. Before then, the NCAA had control literally over everything, even the conferences. So this is going to be something that can only mean good things for the future of at least college football, if not all of sport. The one thing that is not good, I would say, for anybody in this case is the NCAA. And it's not just because of the fact that we have a situation where you guys don't hear the police siren outside my window, do you? Don't worry, they're not coming for me. I just keep hearing sirens going on outside. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but this is not a story where you're thinking, okay, well, the NCAA is going to be fine regardless. It's really not going to be fine regardless, because I think something that's kind of been brought back into the main light over the last couple of days after all this began is House versus NCAA, which is an ongoing lawsuit that the NCAA could literally pay billions of fucking dollars in So that is awful. Before going any further on that, Wasteland Wanderer. I mean, the NCAA is basically a mafia, in my opinion. I don't know about a mafia, but I would say that they have been a monopoly for a very long time. That's what we're about to get into. Armstrong Addy, this only tells me the playoffs is going to last 2 years and major changes will happen to the playoffs. And Cynical, the 2000s allowed paid players, the many issues, and even the history would have a more of a positive light than half decade being dropped. And DJ Malone, greetings, good sir. How are you doing tonight? Average Texas Mitch, I mean, now that the only two teams that kept the Big 12 relevant left, we're going to see a huge surge of SEC versus Big 10 college football playoff, or SEC versus SEC, or big versus big. That depends. It really fucking depends. But to get back into this case for a moment here, so like I mentioned, I think this is something that's been slept on. So what is House versus NCAA? Well, House versus NCAA is basically a class action lawsuit, an antitrust lawsuit at that, against the NCAA. This was filed by a federal judge on Friday, or back in November, I should say. And the NCAA is on the hook. They, House versus NCAA is being heard in the District of Northern California. And Northern California is also the same district court where previous NCAA cases paved the way for NIL, basically. I'm quoting some of the article here from the AP via ESPN. But basically, this is what's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should who is suing the NCAA? Basically, a group of former players in all sports, originally brought by the Arizona State swimmer Grant House in 2020. It challenges basically the remaining NIL issues that were not resolved in the O'Bannon case from a few years back. And it's saying, hey, you fuckers owe us back pay for all of our name, images, and likeness bullshit, because if you're giving all these guys NIL deals now, why the fuck aren't you giving us our back pay, right? Like if you're working for a corporation and you're given overtime, or you're supposed to be getting overtime, but that overtime isn't paid right away, your company owes you that fucking money still, right? So even though the rules have changed in the NCAA, the plaintiffs are claiming that because the rules changed, that means they're owed fucking money. And if that's the case, you're talking hundreds of thousands of student athletes from almost over 100 years of organized collegiate athletics that could be owed money from this case. I don't know how much, but we're talking about hundreds of thousands of potential claims. It's billions of fucking dollars. That could put the NCAA out of business right there. Let me go to a couple of comments right here real quick. Matt7397. NCAA acts like they are the Thanos in Infinity War, like they are inevitable. For a long time, you've been right. For a long time, but I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. Wasteland, 12 teams now is a step in the right direction. Hopefully some good mid-major team will win the Natty soon. I really do hope so. And I'm a Buckeye fan, so I mean that's
if we get a 12 seed winning the national championship, that'd be funny.
That would be amazing. I would love that so fucking much. DJ Malone with a question, and it might be dumb. Should the college football playoff bracket have an SEC bracket and a Big Ten bracket? Fuck no.
Absolutely no.
Absolutely fuck no.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Here's the problem. You would basically be having probably two separate 4-team playoffs for each conference. So you would have the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Ole Miss, maybe?
Ole Miss.
Right now, at least?
Well, they just lost their main running back to Ohio State and Judkins.
Okay, but who else is outside of that top 3 of Alabama, Georgia, LSU?
It could be a whole array. It could be Ole Miss. It could be Mizzou. It could be
exactly.
It could be the incoming Texas. It could be the incoming Oklahoma.
True. Texas did make the playoff last season. On the Big Ten side, though, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, maybe Penn State, maybe USC, maybe UCLA, Oregon, maybe. I
Washington.
would say Washington, but Washington just had 20 of their 22 starters completely transfer on them for next
Yep,
season
that
after
and
they lost
what's it called?
DeBoer.
Fucking that, and they got a new
DeBoer,
their head coach
yeah,
dipped in favor
yeah,
of someone else. They got a new head
Alabama.
coach. They just got fucking Steve Belichick as a defensive coordinator.
We'll see how that question in the case of you could probably fit those 8 teams that we listed off into the current format anyways, and then you could still have room for an ACC champ, a Big 12 champ, and a Power 5 team. So there'd be no
Exactly, yeah.
point. Average Mitch, we might see the downfall of the NCAA and see an organization take over. Here's a question from Armstrong Addy. If you're in a non-revenue sport where the money you should be paid, well, baseball, believe it or not, you can make a fuck ton of claims with baseball thanks to the College World Series. Not to mention, even though these are non-revenue sports, you could have these. The NCAA tries to televise every single national championship in all of their sports.
Yeah.
Baseball, wrestling, hockey. Those are big fucking gymnastics.
Right, and remember too, there was
Volleyball,
word. If you remember,
lacrosse.
right? If you remember, there was word. I know I'm veering off course for a second, but there was word recently of ESPN, TNT, and I think was it Fox or something that said they might talk. They're talking about like make it a combined stream service, one service for multiple things. Yeah, so
yeah,
like you're talking TV
a little
deals
off
like the
course,
SEC
but
being fucked up. You got deals with other comments like the ACC sometimes shown on ESPN Plus. You got like not even just that, but you got like a bunch of other sports too that are like that can be impacted by this in terms of the collegiate level. College football is one of them.
yeah, I mean, I probably could have just stayed on this screen here. This is the first time we're doing this kind of weekly live stream, guys. So just bear with me as they work out the kinks. But you're a little off course, but I understand where you're going. The main point is this: they've been showing these national championship events in non-revenue sports on television and making money off of it for years. They've been showing non-revenue sports on ESPN for years. So if you're a non-revenue sport, sure, you're called non-revenue because you're not considered one of the top sports. If you're not football, if you're not basketball in the top conferences, and if you're not one of the top teams in baseball, your athletic department is not making any money off of your ass. That's what non-revenue sport means. A better term I would say would be for everybody else would be the Olympic sports. Your guys like polo and gymnastics, like I was mentioning, hockey. Those are the sports where you're not making any fucking money off of it, but you're sure as shit getting a lot of free TV, and you're getting more publicity for those schools. So why the fuck wouldn't you want to cut? That's ultimately what it's kind of revolving around. Like, yeah, they solved the football side of things, but what about everybody else? And they didn't really solve. Like, they probably also solved college basketball to an extent too, although we don't hear about that. But what about the baseballs and the hockeys and the gymnastics and the lacrosses and of the world? That's what this case revolves around. That's a lot of fucking sports and a lot of fucking people that get involved there. Track and field too. That's another big one. Track and field. Cynical, going back to his previous question about the conference brackets. If anything, would the season be shorter? No, they would not shorten up the season at all. That's lost money. That is a lot of lost money. I mean, do you see a scenario logical where they could say, we're going to go ahead and go back to 11 games like we had in the early 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. Let's see. And I'm afraid, from Armstrong Addy, I'm afraid if these NIL shit go through schools, probably start cutting sports. That is another thing that people have been kind of throwing around relating back to the NCAA here. Is that the fact of the matter is we could see We could see another effect where non-revenue sports could be cut in favor of the sports that are actually making a lot of money. But I, here's the problem with that, right? If you are a school that's trying to be for profit, but you're
Yeah.
still a school, how much money do you lose on enrollments because all these players are no longer going to your school and paying tuition or
Yeah.
paying for shit on campus? A lot of these non-revenue schools, you do have athletic scholarships, sure, but not everybody is. Not everybody that plays basketball, not even everybody that plays football is on scholarship. It's a lot of players that could be, looking to go elsewhere or looking to leave the school entirely if they can't pursue their Olympic sport in college. So
Right.
that could be that could be more hurt than good, I would say. Illogical, what do you think? Give me 1 second.
It's gonna be like that. Like a lot of these sports that athletes don't get paid in, it's gonna hit the fucking fan. Sooner or later, it's gonna hit the fan because the more sports in the NCAA umbrella that get paid, they're gonna start taking over. Like every sport's gonna have a sort of payment. But if they're not sustainable of how they pay, then guess what, Sherlock? You're fucked out of luck. Because like you gotta have an organized system, and I feel like the more organized it seems, the less organized it really becomes, because it keeps getting fucked up. Like it becomes sustainable for a little bit, then the NCAA is just like, I don't think so. You're going back to being disorganized, fucker. And right, you're right. You're yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I
But
know.
fucking, it's one of those situations where like they desperately need an organized system in order to be able to have a functioning NIL system. Because if you cannot have a system in place where everything is organized and basically set in stone, then it's gonna work a lot better. No one's gonna complain. No one's gonna violate anything unless they're fucking stupid, and everything's gonna flow smoothly. But in this case, not so much.
I don't know about that, man. I really don't know. My whole thought process on the state of the non-revenue sports is I think they just need to separate them. I think that'd be the easiest way to go. Like if you want to continue to have non-revenue sports in college athletics, you got to keep something in mind. A lot of the other schools that we're mainly talking about FBS right now, pretty much it's only FBS that we're talking about, or Division One for the non-revenues. But that does not mean that you gotta immediately be like, well, fuck everybody else, even though the different leagues are all playing on different levels of competition, and none of these other areas mean dick, because then it's like, okay, should FCS get rid of their shit? Should Division Two? Should Division Three? Should we just not have any athletics in college at all? Because then what's going to happen if you eliminate all the non-revenue sports from Division One? They'll go to Division Two. We'll want to watch those guys in Division Two. See where I'm getting at? It's a vicious cycle. Like, where does it fucking stop in that regard? So I do not see a scenario where all non-revenue sports could be under threat. I feel like that's an extreme take on an extremely unique situation, because non-revenue sports are suffering because of what's going on with football and to a lesser extent basketball, but they weren't really going to get affected. They benefit more, especially if you're a bigger school, from this shit, from the revenue generated by basketball and football, than any other. Because I mean, shit, if you're LSU, you're operating in the black right now.
Yeah.
If you're a school that's sent a lot of fucking money, like Texas A&M, to tell coaches to not coach there, that's another story. But if you've been smart with your coaching decisions, like in Ohio State or a Georgia or a Clemson, you're operating in the black and you will be totally fine with your non-revenue sports. So I think it's more of a shot at the universities to say, hey, maybe don't hire Jimbo fucking Fisher as your coach if you're going to fire him in just 2 years. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that's specifically for A&M, but that's beside the fucking point. Let's get back to some questions. Matt, sounds like high school sports. Football, basketball make the most money, but other school sports are just there for most schools. They're there for the players, not for the schools. It's only for the players. Cynical. Since COVID, the portal and NIL have taken over to the point where the 2020s are just a Wild West. You're goddamn right. That's a very good
He's not
point.
wrong. That's probably the most scientific I've freaking seen so far tonight.
The NIL and COVID really just piggybacked off of each other, right?
It kind of fucked everything in the long sense.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing when it came to COVID. Here's the thing. COVID is it was probably the most jarring experience in humanity since the Spanish flu in the early 1900s. Nothing was going to be the fucking same after COVID. To this day, in normal life, shit's still not fully how it was prior.
Yeah.
So naturally, college football was going to change. We couldn't have expected it to be the same. And you still see long-lasting effects from it, just from players still being around from COVID, pre-COVID. You know, Bo Nix started playing college football in 2018, 2019, and he just now got out. There's another transfer athlete that transferred to Miami that's going to be playing his 8th fucking year of college football this fall.
Yeah.
So, you know, these players that got granted an extra year of eligibility, sure, that's going to fuck some shit up in terms of like spots available. Yeah. It's going to make it a tougher competition. But what it also did was the NIL, which was updated back in 2017 or 2018. I can't remember what I said in the video that I made about it. But it was updated just before COVID. And that put down the guardrails on transfers. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the transfer portal, but it goes hand in hand with the transfer portal. So you got to remember, the transfer portals was severely weakened by the lessening of restrictions. You don't have the 1-year penalty anymore when you transfer the first time. And you don't have to go through 3 fucking people and a shitload of paperwork anymore to transfer. You put your name in the portal, school picks you up, you're good for the first time. Coach leaves, you get a freebie, you're good. But then you get an NIL, and it becomes a fucking bidding war because you got all these players that have not transferred but have not played and are looking for playing time, and they're really goddamn good, and they're on a deep roster. And suddenly, it's literally college football free agency because NIL hits and takes effect in 21. You have the transfer portal out there, and it just fucking blows up because you also have the surplus of well-seasoned college football players that have been around for a long time. So, you know, it is the Wild West because we had unprecedented times a couple years back that helped exasperate unprecedented times now. And the NCAA, sadly, is just not able to keep up with the fast-changing landscape of college football. And they're trying to use old-school tactics of intimidation to keep their member schools in line. And schools like Tennessee are like, fuck this shit. Another couple comments here. A&M, the best class of 22, literally falls apart within the next season. Lamau, sweet A&M failure. I love it. Oh, those poor Aggies. They just can't.
Yeah.
They spend like they're a big-time college football team, but they're really not.
Yeah, plus A&M's been under scrutiny for let's just say reasons that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Well, we won't, if it's nothing savory, we're not going to mention it here right now.
Why do you think I said it the way I said it?
Hey, Hal, what's up, buddy? Yes, somehow the NCAA is less competent than youth sports. The fact that I don't even hear about youth sports on a day-to-day basis means that they got to be doing something right. So that's good, at least.
Yeah.
All right. So, what does this all mean, basically? My computer. Well, one thing it means is that my computer just took a shit on me. I can still operate off of my phone, so we're good. Friend of the show, Akbar fan. How you doing, buddy? Let's talk about the Tennessee shit for a bit. Tennessee fan feels odd that Tennessee is the college to push against the NCAA. I agree because it's also an SEC school. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's one thing if you're like a mid-major that is
trying to push, but fucking Tennessee.
Yeah. The home of Peyton Manning.
The land where Demon Kane leads the county.
Now, I also got some bad news on that front. Virginia and Tennessee's attorney generals did sue to put a restraining order against the NCAA for punishing Tennessee any further. That was denied yesterday. So
yeah, well,
Tennessee's not going to get any damn relief.
But here's the thing with that though. That order was stupid. Cause you want to basically attorney general's like, well, hey, NCAA, we don't want you to punish these guys any further, so here's a restraining order. Really? Listen, man.
How it works.
Politics does not equal sports. Sports does not equal politics. It was not.
We're going to disagree there, my friend. We're going to disagree bad. I'm going to tell you right now.
Okay. In some aspects, yes. In some aspects, no. Some aspects
in everyday life has their own version of politics, man. I've learned that from my day job. I've learned that from watching sports in all levels, college, NFL. If you can politic and if you can kiss ass while getting something out of it, you get everything. You know what I mean? You get everything if you can do that.
Yeah,
it's a fine line to walk. And a lot of these athletic directors they hire are guys that are able to both kiss ass to the NCAA, kiss ass to other schools in their conferences while trying to maintain their level of power.
Right. I like how
Tennessee is one of those schools that can do it.
I like how Cynical said NCAA is going out to Tennessee is like the UN coming down in Switzerland. That's funny as fuck. That's funny as fuck. I'm not even gonna lie. That's funny as fuck.
He's not. God, that's good.
It's like, but I understand where the politicking comes from. But at the same token, too, you gotta figure, like the attorney generals are basically saying to a collegiate sports commission, the collegiate sports body of the United States, and saying, "Hey, can you not punish our school?" Of course, it's gonna get fucking shot down. Jesus.
The attorney generals, I don't know what it was. I don't know if they were trying to go after them for some anti-Sherman. If I recall correctly, they were trying to say that this is a violation of antitrust laws, and because of that, they need to stop. That was weak as fuck. Like, what antitrust are they violating? NCAA just went to the judge and said, look, we're just going off of our current rule book. It's a mess, but there are rules in there, and we don't think Tennessee followed them, so we have a right as a private organization to punish them. And that's why they didn't have it shot down. I get what you're saying, Matt. You were just referencing 2022 and haven't done crap since 2008. I get that. But it's so much more expansive now.
Right. Texas Michigan, I'm also on a marching band, and we have a large band and can be profitable, very profitable. But the band is particularly
that's another one.
And we get a salary of $1,000. That's it?
Well, I mean, you got to think here. Some of these bands also tour the country. You know what I mean? So you got to be athletic as fuck to be in a marching band. Like that's not just some, it's not a goddamn Alabama Crimson Net in the stands twirling a little baton and going, "Yeah, go Tiger." It's a fucking guy carrying a 25-pound tuba halfway across the field, doing it in all these different formations with timing that makes the military of the world blush.
Okay, but here's my question though. if you have to be athletic to be in a band, then how come Red Rubber Duckwind managed to get on a band?
Why the fuck did you have to bury Duck on that? Jesus Christ. Poor bastard's trying to get a degree from the University of Akron, for God's sake. Leave the man alone. That poor bastard's in deep enough shit as it is. Oh my God. I salute Duck. You're gonna have more tire marks on your degree than the fucking highway, but there you go. So yeah, 1K for a band. That's fucked. That's the rules of the game. All right, so I'm gonna try to veer this train wreck back onto the tracks here for a moment.
Yeah.
And I do want to bring up something else that ties in with this that you brought to me, illogical, that I nearly forgot about prior to the start of the broadcast. So let me get it pulled up. We're going to talk about some Ivy League. And namely, whatever the fuck's going on with Dartmouth.
Yeah.
So go ahead. You know more about this than I do at the moment.
Yeah. So here's the situation. So there was a thing I guess Dartmouth submitted to the U.S. Labor Board, and the issue I guess surrounded the issue of unionization amongst college athletes. This was mainly for their basketball program, and Dartmouth College has been known to be an Ivy League school. This is up in New Hampshire, and I guess the U.S. labor official, basically the labor official, like as you see in the title there, Dartmouth basketball players are school employees, which sets the stage for a unionization vote amongst those players. The question then comes, if Dartmouth's basketball squad can do this, right, and this is not really the football, but stay on track for a moment. If Dartmouth's basketball squad can do this, and they are labeled as school employees, then what impact could that have for college football in the future? Could that, institute these like big name schools as well to have their own inquiries? And if it comes to that same result, do the players of those teams, do they unionize? Do they enter a union? Do they get union benefits like insurance and other shit? Do they get regular salaries?
That's one thing to get. It's one thing to get wages from these schools. It's another thing when you start talking about insurance and benefits. So, trouble in Ivy land is right, cynical. The Ivy needs to shit on more. The schools, I mean, not the players. Yeah. So I agree with this. I don't know if I agree with the labor board decision here, but I do agree that with cynical, I do need to shit on the Ivy League. The Ivy League is one of the most historic group of college football teams in the country. I mean, you go back to 1869 when the fucker started, and all the way up until the 1950s, Ivy League schools were regularly winning national championships in college football. It wasn't until the realignments that separated your college divisions and your university divisions, as they were known back in the day, that the Ivy League basically said, well, fuck it, we're academics first, and we're going to stay that way.
Yeah.
This is huge because of that. The Ivy League touts itself as an academic first institution. They don't really give too much of a shit about postseason play. If I recall correctly, the Ivy League doesn't even play postseason in the FCS playoffs. They play postseason in college football and college basketball for March Madness, but that's pretty much the majority of it because it's all about just academics there. It's not so much about postseason because they don't give a shit about the postseason revenue.
These are mainly like the higher end scholars, and they're not really they're not really sports centric. They're more academics eccentric at that point.
Private institutions that are heavily funded by alumni that got really rich off of their fat ass degrees that are loaded with so much fucking gold and silver, it makes the snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer fucking melt. So let's just focus here for a moment. This is huge on top of everything else going on with the NCAA. If the Dartmouth basketball players do decide, you know what? Yeah, let's unionize. Let's say we're a union. Oh boy. Oh
That's
boy.
gonna
You want to talk
be
about a Pandora's box? We already opened up one when it came to NIL. We've opened up more when it comes to conference expansion. That is like the biggest Pandora's box is getting unions involved. I've heard people talk about how there needs to be a collective bargaining agreement in college sports for the money athletic, for the
yeah.
money leagues, that is, for football and basketball to a certain degree, especially if you're getting TV revenue on it. But there is like,
That's how it came about.
but there is, this could be huge.
Yeah. Let's go.
If
No, right. If you
basketball
scroll
players
down
in Dartmouth get a
yeah.
CBA,
Oh
school
god.
players in Harvard get a CBA, Yale gets a CBA, University of Delaware gets a CBA, and all of a sudden Michigan gets a CBA, Ohio State gets a CBA, and it just goes and goes and goes. You could have a situation where you could have 300 fucking schools have their own CBA with the NCAA.
Yeah.
That would kill it in an instant. Like, bam, like
Yeah.
they can't handle
Let's-
that.
Yeah. You want to listen to this line from the article, from the AP article, because this is how it kind of came about, and then I'll read another one based on the ruling. So the first part of this I want to get your eye to. This was brought about by the players at Dartmouth, because it says here, all 15 members of the Dartmouth men's team signed a petition in September asking to join Local 560 of the Services Employees International Union, which already represents some others at the Ivy League school. Basically, they had signed a petition requesting to join that union, I guess.
Okay.
And then this part right here, this is how the ruling came in about, and take this with know how you will. Because Dartmouth has the right to control the work performed by the Dartmouth men's basketball team, and the players perform that work in exchange for compensation, I find that the petition for basketball players are employees within the meaning of the National Labor Relations Act. And that is what the regional director said.
Yep.
That's
So,
and what's emphasized that one line. Because the school operates a team, but the players are the ones that do the work for money, then they are prone to unionization. That right there. That could be the fucking spark that lights everything. Even with college football as well. That is the main spark of the valve.
yeah.
Once you have
The
something
fact
like
that he
that being
spelled it out
said,
like that, because that they play for the school's profit, therefore they are entitled to form a union in that school. Here's the thing: if you work at any company in the country, in theory, you could form a labor union because you're making profit for that company. That's how it works.
exactly.
Now it's up to a bunch of different people to decide that, but apparently, Helvetica sent me an article that I can't fucking open. If you want to send that to a logical, because
Send it to me
he's got
and I
better
can get it
computer
out.
in mind. This is something that could be regarding the CHL and NCAA players in the same vein. I'm going to just kind of point this out, right? And then we'll probably get on to something else. What we have in the works here is something that isn't going to spark anything immediately. This isn't like, oh shit, the world's on fire. How about yours? That's not the way I like it. I'm not going to get bored. Hey, now, this is something that's going to be fucking crazy, but it's going to be a slow burn over the next couple of years. I feel like this is it's also contingent on if this is actually something that is going to spread. Keep in mind, Dartmouth hasn't unionized yet. The labor board says they could unionize if they wanted to. They haven't yet, and if they do, they have to negotiate a contract with Dartmouth exclusively. And what the fuck are the terms of that contract even going to be? Will they actually have, like, you got to pay a certain amount in that contract? Will they have insurance? Will they have benefits of all kinds in that contract? We don't know. We're not even close to that point yet. But I'm curious to see how Dartmouth is going to react and how they're going to proceed. Are they going to embrace this? Because a lot of revolutionary movements in Ivy schools tend to get backing by the presidents at times. And then there's also times when the presidents are like, yeah, this is fucking stupid. We don't know. It's really, really early. But it looks like you read some of Helv's article. Logical. What do
Yeah, I
what do you
did,
see
and
in?
this is interesting as all hell.
Okay, you want to share it on
Oh,
your screen, and then I'll pull it up.
yes, I'll do that right
All
now.
right. While you're doing that, I'm going to read a couple of comments.
Right.
Matt says this is one thing for a basketball team with 20 to 25 players, but with a 75-player football team, that's another situation altogether. And I agree. That is a
Yeah.
lot of shit
Yeah, that's a
regarding
whole can of
the
worms.
that is a whole ass can of worms.
Yeah.
That's a
It's
lot
a
of goddamn benefits that they would be. Average Mitch,
yeah.
Yale's still number one national title holders. Yeah, they're still all time across the entire history of college football. Yale is still number one. Akbar, I did see your comment on my community post, but for the life of me, I'm drawing a blank at the moment, so I can't quite
I
fucking
have it
remember
up.
it. But if you
I have the
wanna,
comment up. I have that
oh, you
comment up
have
on
the
my
comment up,
phone.
please,
Yeah,
please
I'll
tell me
read
what
it.
it was.
It says, geez, this really makes me worry with just how much some of these kids are going to get paid. Like, listen, they needed to. That much was true. With all the sponsorships and TV contracts and such, the fact they were still being treated like this was college ball post World War One was a travesty. But with just how much money these schools are going to throw out for certain players, A, once again, the rich get richer. B, man, is there going to be any money left for academics at this rate?
We touched on that a little bit ago, but I'll expand on it here. So you got to keep in mind these schools are not only getting money from the athletic side, especially the bigger ones. They're getting donations from alumni all the fucking time that never even set
Yeah.
foot on an NCAA sanctioned competition. So I don't feel like, especially, and also you got public universities like Ohio State that get a certain amount of money each year from the state government. For private schools, that's different because they don't get any state funding, but they still get a whole lot of donations from alumni that is not tailored to the athletic department. It's tailored to the academic department. So I don't foresee academics being severely impacted by the athletic side of things in the bigger schools. Now, the smaller schools, you could have issues where, let's say, a Georgia Southern or a South Alabama or a Troy have issues getting enough donations from alumni, but also their athletic department is in the red and the boosters aren't coughing up the money. You could see a situation where that could trickle down. Although I feel like these schools would probably they could cut some smaller non-revenue sports to help make up the difference. They could also sell more sponsorships and they could sell more fucking this, sell that. You got a couple of different avenues to play with. You could take on some loans from the government as well to make up a shortfall. There's plenty of ways that these schools can honestly get out of the hole without having to resort to killing an entire athletic program or an entire academic wing or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? There's plenty of ways. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Just look at the University of Pacific back in 1995. They disbanded their whole football team. UAB, they canned their whole football team in 2017, and it wasn't until a fan outcry and a shitload of money that came in before that came back. So I'm not saying that that's not impossible. It's definitely something to consider. On a micro level, I would say that's going to be a huge problem for a handful of schools. Frankly, if your school is even close to that area, you're better off probably going down to FCS or Division Two, to be honest with you, because that will
Right.
save you a ton. Because that gives you a little bit of flexibility where you're like, okay, we got to downgrade, but like it'll be cheaper for everybody involved. We can still operate as an institution while we sacrifice some of our opponents. We don't sacrifice the actual product. That's what Idaho did a couple years back. They
Yeah.
downgraded from FBS back to FCS to save their skids. And last time I checked, they're doing very well now because of that change, because it saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. Cynical. Will there be a cap to NIL at some point, or will we just see money being poured into the machine? That is $1 million question. That is $1 million question. Multi-million dollar question at that. Illogical, what do you think?
Yeah, at some point there might have to be. because like it might get a little out of control with in terms of how much players get paid and all that shit. There might have to be. Genuinely, there might have to be. Will there be? Probably not, because the NCAA is about as consistent as a glass of water. So with that, I mean, take that with what you will.
Consistent as a glass of water. What the fuck? What?
I don't know.
They're about as consistent as a kindergartner trying to draw a fucking stick man on a piece of paper. Anyway, let's get to that article you mentioned that our good friend of the show, Helvetica, sent us. So, now tell me what you were gawking at, Illogical.
So, I was reading the article, and I want you to know of this part of the discussion right here that I'm going to highlight.
And before we go any further, this is for the audio listeners. We're talking about some potential changes to CHL, NCAA eligibility that could be monumental for developing streams. So that's what we're talking about now. And it's related. For some reason, apparently our Canadian friend says this is related to what the hell's going on in the NCAA. So please.
So I read into this a little bit, and it has to do again with the NIL, and I'll get to that part. Where is it? It's right here. NCAA seems to have changed its mind on the matter in recent years as the name, image, or likeness, or NIL rules have been put in that allow college athletes to monetize themselves. And the Canadian Hockey League, which is the junior system for hockey in the for the upcoming drafts, this is the matter of if players from the Canadian Hockey League were to join NCAA collegiate hockey, that is basically opening the question of will these players have the same eligibility for NIL as the rest of the college landscape in the United States?
Oh no. Oh no. Them fucking Canadians ruin everything. God damn it. Those maple syrup loving Canuck fucking Canadians.
Queso, garage, and blood pressure spiking again.
Hang on. Wichita State rid their football program, but that was relating to a plane crash killing the team. Oh, I only bring that up because I went there. Oh shit!
Yeah,
I didn't know that's why. I didn't know that's why WichitaAte got rid of their team. I thought it was like Xavier, where they just got rid of their team because they went broke or some shit. And then
just having an 85.
Hell,
if I'm not mistaken.
Helvetica says, and I'm reminding you that Simon Fraser killed their Division II football team by not enough funds to go play independent. And Simon Fraser was the only Canadian NCAA program that played football for a while before they had to ixnay the Xnay program there. So that sucks.
The hockey's still strong.
Holy shit. That opens up another can of worms when you think about it, because NIL, you're getting basically a semi-pro league potentially involved in NCAA hockey. How does that affect college football? Does the FBS say, you know what, we're going to partner up with the UFL and have some of those guys play with us? Like, can you imagine that shit? Hey, we're going to play NCAA college baseball. We're going to partner up with MLB's single A ball. We're going to partner college basketball up with the G League. Could you imagine that's basically the comparisons here in a sense?
Yeah, this is very.
We're going to partner up NCAA soccer with USL League One. There's a lot of that opens up a lot of goddamn questions. I'm inclined to believe that they don't go that route, frankly. But what's the incentive for the NCAA doing this? Did it say?
I didn't see one, but I'm just gonna scroll through it real quick. But I don't know. Just give me a minute. I'm gonna look into this or just read some more comments for a moment while I try to find this.
Okay. Well, while you do that, I'm going to talk about God's favorite Golden Hemorrhoid, Notre Dame, because Cynical brought them up. Besides God's favorite team, Notre Dame and Navy, is being independent worth it anymore, and Army. But you mean Army, because Navy's in the American, Army's not. So when we talk about Jesus's favorite hanging toenail, Notre Dame, we got to remember that is another situation of they got a really deep alumni base that'll fork money over hand over
That's
fist
why.
because of the jobs that they got. So
That's
that's why. The military schools are another huge can of worms because they're kind of like Ivy League in the sense that academics are more important, but
Yeah.
their academics are how to go to war.
Yeah.
And
I
sports are
did find
kind
out
of
the reason for you, by the way.
secondary to that.
So the reason for this is mainly because the CHL didn't want to continue losing top tier players to the NCAA system so easily.
Okay.
Because like guys in the NHL, like for example, like Cale Makar, Adam Fantilli, Macklin Calabrini, guys are gonna be either guys that are in the NHL or going into the NHL next season. They've already lost those guys from the CHL. They lost them to the NCAA. And they want to prevent that by making it a more easier and accessible system.
So it's a talent depth issue, basically. Okay.
That, and I saw something else too. For years, and the NCAA deemed the CHL players ineligible because the free leagues that make up that governing body, have players who have signed professional contracts with the National Hockey League. So that in a way, basically, they saw those contracts as not really feasible for them to join the NCAA when they're already contracted to the professional league.
Okay. Who instigated this whole thing? Was it the CHL coming to the NCAA and saying, "Hey, you got to fucking help us out here"?
This was
because that'll determine how I can see it playing out in college football.
I don't know. It doesn't. From what I see, I didn't see what exactly triggered it, but this was more of a vote that was just, I guess, randomly put together by the NCAA, and that's that and the issue with the British Columbia Hockey League removing itself from the Canadian Junior Hockey League.
Okay,
that's a whole
that's a mess. That's a fucking hell of a mess right there, my friend.
That's a mess.
I won't bullshit you when I say that is like, I don't know if that's going to compare anything to college football just in terms of like NIL rules, but that's more of an eligibility question at that point more than NIL, because if you think about it, if these guys are signing pro contracts with the Rangers and the Blackhawks and the Blue Jackets of the world, they're no longer considered amateurs. But then again, what the fuck is amateurism in the NCAA these days? Is that actually a real word, or is it exactly? What is the NCAA's definition of amateurism? That's the question.
Exactly.
And I think that's not just a question I would have for hockey, but in all of football. Like, what the fuck is considered amateurism? Is it you get money from booster groups? Is it getting money from the schools because they make so much? Or is it just a phrase they throw out there, which is really their fancier version of saying semi-pro? That's basically what the fuck it is now. If you're loosely defining amateurism as nobody playing this game gets any money, that has been dead for at least the last few years. That does no longer exist, because now you're no longer amateur, you're semi-pro. You're semi-pro. Some players get paid, some don't. Scholarship players in football get paid. Some of them do, not all of them. Some of them do. Guys that are walk-ons don't. So that is what the true definition needs to be figured out. What the fuck is the model? Like, what is it? And I can't give you a good answer at the moment, because the NCAA clearly can't make up their own fucking minds, as we all well know. Matt's has another statement here. Tennessee already has NIL deals for high school players, and everyone has a problem with it in terms of some kids making as much or more in a few cases than their parents. I would say that's more of a state law issue.
That's kind of funny.
That's
kind of funny.
So you're telling me that a quarterback for Jambalaya Jack Jr. High School in Cookeville, Tennessee, is getting paid $500,000 a season, while Jimmy Bob Billy in Texas is not getting shit? that is that's a state law issue, not an NCAA issue. And there's not really much I could say there because the problem with NIL as well, it isn't just like, oh well, it's an NCAA thing. It's a state law thing.
Yeah.
States have to make laws about what they do with NIL, what's permissible, per O'Bannon's Supreme Court case. So that's tough. That's tough for the NCAA to really wrap their heads around too. Like these kids technically aren't amateurs coming into college because they've been getting paid, but did we disqualify some of the top talent in Tennessee because they've been getting sponsorships since high school?
Yeah.
No, I would say no.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
is that something that is going to be reflected in all 50 states in the union? No. I don't think fucking Wyoming's not going to be doing shit like that anytime soon. California, I don't think it's going to do anything like that. Ohio, Texas, Florida, especially just with how vague everything is. I'm gonna wrap up my point on the NCAA here, right?
Mhm.
This is what I think. In terms of where things stand currently, the NCAA is in really deep shit, and I hope this time next week when we come back for our next episode, we have a better understanding of where things are at the moment, but we both know how slow the NCAA moves. What I am seeing, and I think what a lot of people are realizing is just when they say that the NCAA is powerless, no truer statement on God's green earth exists than, this right here, that the NCAA is powerless to do anything in the face of NIL, in the face of paying these players. What the NCAA needs to do is to find a way forward as an organization, and it starts with this alliance with the Big Ten and the SEC. I think that's where it's going to begin. If the NCAA is going to survive into the next century, into the next 10 years even, the next 5 years, it starts with the Big Ten and the SEC and what they suggest that they need to do. Because whatever the NCAA is getting in terms of feedback from those two power brokers of college athletics, they would be wise to shut up and follow. Otherwise, who the fuck knows what'll happen? Those two conferences control 30-something programs in major D1 football and college basketball. If those two conferences decide, you know what, we're going to form our own league because the NCAA is not listed rules, could you imagine how quick all these other places would leave? Could you imagine how quick the ACC is like, yeah, I'll jump on board. Big 12, yeah, I'll jump on board. And the entire FBS it gets wiped out other than a handful of conferences? That would kill the NCAA.
Oh, yeah, one.
The NCAA is the sick man of athletics in North America. And I don't have an easy answer at this moment. Once again, guys, you are watching This Week in College Football. I'm going to kind of do a reset here. We're an hour into the show. Don't know how much longer we're going to do this tonight, but we are going to do a little identification here. My name's Red. Below me is Logical Canadian. Give him some love if you don't mind. He does a lot of different shit on his own YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm
Go
9
give him
away
a
from
check and a
300.
subscribe. He's only a few away from 300. Go check him out. He makes some good stuff over there. We've been discussing for the last hour some of what's been going on with the NCAA in terms of the Big Ten SEC alliance, what's been going on over at Dartmouth, the lawsuits that they're under. We're going to switch gears here for a little bit to something else. And we had what used to be a pretty exciting day in college football happen today. It was National Signing Day.
Whoop.
Nobody gave a shit. And again, this kind of ties in hand with the rest of the show right now, is because like everything was pretty much already done and dusted before today. Most of I think 99% of the big name recruits already committed. They already signed, and all the drama already happened and took place. So Not a whole lot of moves happened today. I think what we're going to do here is we're just going to go over the top 10 of the recruitments in terms of where everybody kind of finished out. And what's the source for this list?
This is 24/7 Sports.
Okay. So recruitment rankings brought to you by 24/7 Sports. I don't know if this is this is not the be all end all. It's just one ranking. But we're going to start with Auburn. Auburn finished number 10 with 20 commitments, it looks like. I'm going to expand my screen here a little bit. So
Yeah, I can do it. So this column right here, this first column is going to be 5 stars, second column 4, and third column 3.
Okay. All right. So Auburn got 1 5-star recruit, 14 4-stars, and they ended up finishing 10th with a total of 20 commits during this recruitment season. Coming in at number 9, what do I get? What's the nickname this time? God's Golden Turd, Notre Dame, with 23 commits. No 5-star recruits. Just a lot of 4-stars with 16 there. Kind of disappointing if you think about it for Notre Dame, but they've been really transfer happy lately with their quarterbacks, so I'm not too terribly surprised. Coming in at number 8 is Oklahoma with 1 5-star, 19 4s. Fairly solid, but could have been better, obviously. Number 7 was LSU with a 1 5-star recruit and 19 4-stars, similar to Oklahoma, but they got 29 commits over 28. Number 6, college football playoff, third runner-up, Texas. They pick up 4 5-star recruits and 15 4-stars. It's pretty fucking good. It's pretty goddamn good for Sarkisian and company. And we're going to get down to the top 5 here. And number 5, the Ohio State University with 4 5-stars and 14 4-star commits. Considering how happy they were to dole out $15 million in the transfer portal, I'm just glad they finished in the top 10 at all, to be honest with you, because that's
What on the top 5?
Talent. Yeah, let alone top 5. That's a lot of fucking talent coming to the shoe, I tell you what.
Number 4?
Number 4, a surprising entrant, in my opinion, the University of Miami, number 4 per 247 Sports with 27 commits, with 3 5s, 11 4s, and a whopping 13 at 3 and under. It's a lot of goddamn
3 stars.
prospects.
Just 3 stars.
Just 3 stars and 3?
Just 3 stars, yeah.
Huh. Interesting. So, and that's a total of 27 commits. I'll tell you what, that is surprising considering what they were able to bring in. I wonder what they're doing for recruiting over there, because they really fell on their face hard during the regular season. I don't know what the fuck Cristobal is selling these kids, but I don't know if it's going to be worth it in the end. Number 3, Oregon with 27 commits, 22 of which were 4-star recruits. They didn't get a single 5-star recruit out of this year's recruitment class, which is, I'd say, pretty surprising. I mean, what do you think about that?
Not even a single fucking 5-star? You couldn't muster one?
Yeah, that's just very strange. But it also means that Oregon's going to be dangerous. Even with 4 stars, I mean, that's 5-star, 4-star. Oh, God, Akbar. Take a damn knee. Kneel the damn ball, he says. I wanted so bad to roast Mario Cristobal back when that happened live, and I just did not have the time at that point to do it. But that was fucking some of the worst coaching I have seen in a very long time. Number 2 and number 1 shouldn't be surprising to anybody if you've been following along. You're good, Akbar. You're good, man. Alabama taking the number 2 spot. Georgia with the number 1. Hardly surprising for Georgia, at least, but kind of surprising for Alabama. I think what saved them, remember, Saban retired. I think what saved them was the hire with Caleb DeBoer from Washington. I think that's what saved the recruitment class, because there was a few guys that decommitted from Alabama and went back out in the market after Saban retired.
Yeah.
And then DeBoer came in, and a few of those guys kind of trickled back in, which surprised the hell out of me. They took a lot more damage in the transfer portal department, but recruiting wise, they're once again Alabama. They're going to be set up fairly nicely, I think, in the future.
Yeah. And let me do this one last thing, I guess. These are some of the top recruits. See if I can get rid of this fucking goddamn. There you go. You got some of the top guys here for top recruits, at least in the country. Right. Number 8. This one, I tried so hard to see if there was a connection here. This guy is a beast here, Williams Nwaneri.
Mm-hmm.
You may recognize that last name.
Yep. I recognize it.
Yeah.
I don't recall why for a moment, but I don't recognize it. I recognize it. Yeah. And then a couple other top.
Yeah.
Couple other
and
top
guy. Top guy. Look at this. Top guy right here.
Ohio State picks up Jeremiah Smith, the top wide receiver in the country, and overall number 1 according to 247 Sports. I can't remember if ESPN also had them number 1, but top wide receiver in the country in front of Cam Coleman, who went to Auburn, Ryan Williams, who went to Alabama. Top quarterback, though, Julian Sayin went to Alabama. That is very, very, very tough to beat.
I can't tell because the fucking ESPN was behind a fucking paywall.
Of course they are. And then Justin Williams, top linebacker recruit in the country, ended up committing to Georgia. Georgia also picked up cornerback. You scroll before I get the fucking name.
No, sorry.
Jesus Christ. Fuck it. Ellis Robinson IV went to Georgia. This is a shit show and a half.
Yeah.
And that's really about it. There wasn't any real major breaking news on that front today, which I think just kind of, again, reminds us about what the state of college football is in terms of, recruits and transfers and all that good shit. If you don't have like a top 10 recruitment roster going into the next season, a lot of these guys could wind up transferring. It would not surprise me if Alabama has a regression and Julian Sayin is like, you know what? I feel like I can go to UAB, or I feel like I can go to UCF, or something crazy like that, because he doesn't get any playing time, which he's not expected to get any playing time this upcoming year because what's his name came back? Milroe came back for Alabama. Speaking of quarterbacks not getting any playing time, Arch Manning announced today that he is okay with sitting behind Ewers for another year if needed, which I found kind of insane.
That's interesting.
What the rumors have been. And that's really about it there. So I think we're going to go ahead and put a bow on this one because, again, the national recruitment stage just – I remember when it was National Signing Day and it was a big fucking deal. It was kind of like the draft day for the NFL, for college football. Nowadays, it's kind of just meaningless. I really just kind of wanted to end it on a more like normal mode here. So that'll be that. So anyway, Logical, any final thoughts about the discussion this evening in regards to anything really?
This is going to be a shit show. This whole fucking thing is going to be a fucking massive tire fire. And I something tells me that there's going to be a massive fucking march for a new ownership or a new body or whatever. I feel like at some point that's going to come to a head. The matter of when is still up in the air. But I have to just really keep a keen eye on it and just wait to see what more comes out of it.
I hear you. So, once again, guys, if you don't mind, give my buddy Illogical a good subscribe and a shout out to him. Thank you for joining me on the inaugural episode of this shit show. And I'm going to take it home solo from here. Well,
Oh.
not you.
Yeah.
He hijacked the show. So we're gonna put a bow on this here, and I'm gonna give my final thoughts as we go into the rest of this week and into next. The NCAA has been the governing body of college athletics for, God, I can't remember how long, almost 100 years, I think, since the 1930s, 1920s, in some weird shape or form. And it is, without a doubt, the most chaotic sports organization in North America right now. There have been worse run organizations in the past, the AAF and others, but the NCAA, I just fucking I'm trying to have a nice closing speech and I about fuck it up. God damn it. The NCAA is definitely in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Lawsuits, they have 5 different lawsuits out right now. The big one being the House case, where hundreds, if not thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of non-revenue sport players could be given back pay by the NCAA, and it would cost them billions of dollars to pay it up. That could kill the NCAA right there. You have major conferences out for the heads of the NCAA that just, are sick and tired of having to listen to their bullshit, and sick and tired of them not making rules and keeping up with the times, which are moving faster and faster every single day. I know the NCAA has been trying to throw out the idea that they can restructure Division I FBS into a paid division and a non-paying division. I frankly doubt, with everything going on right now, with what we're seeing, that's something that can come to fruition in time to save the NCAA. But I do know that college athletics as a whole is going to continue to permanently change. The realignment, the college football playoff shuffle, those are symptoms of the bigger problem. Those are not that's the shit they're ending is not the end of this. It's going to continue. All we can do as fans is hold on for the ride and try to make sense of it. And I hope you guys come back next week for our next live stream, where we'll follow up on some of these and whatever the hell else we got coming up in the future. For now, I'm going to be taking a little solo trip myself to Columbus this weekend. I'm going to catch some Ohio State basketball as they take on, I believe it's Maryland at home. And I'm going to try to get a little R&R. I'm going to work on the college football playoff video, part 3 of the National Championship Series. Script writing is in full force. However, it's not going as quick as I would like, naturally.
Oh, God.
But, well, what the fuck do you want me to do, man? I'm trying to make it right. I'm trying to make it fast. But once again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the first episode. We can only get better from here. My name is Red. This has been Illogical. Thanks for watching. We will catch you all next week. You have a good night now.